Yeah, good afternoon, all of you, once again. So, let us continue this explanation of the essay, The Death of the Author by Roland Barthes. In our previous class, we have seen how Barthes was presenting a sentence from Honor de Balzac's uh, story, S by Jet, that is Saracen, okay, S by Jet. And wherein we have seen how Barthes was trying to communicate with us that who is speaking, the question can never be answered because a written word, of course, will have layers of meanings, different layers of meanings, and as per the post-structuralist theory, the meaning will never end. That is what actually Barthes communicates with us, pointing out the difficulty to answer the question of who is speaking. So the question of who is speaking is very difficult and complex, and we cannot give a single answer to that. There are multiple varied answers for the question who is speaking. So that we have already discussed, and we will continue with the next paragraph. So let us, let me share the screen. You can also open your text, the copy of the text in your mobiles. So where is the, yeah. Yeah, I am sharing. Is the text visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So, did you open in your mobiles also? This is the second paragraph of this essay. So, we have seen in the first paragraph the difficulty of answering a single question only. And of course, Barthes says that writing is such a kind of activity where the identity gets lost or the identity slips away, the subject slips away. So, the very identity of the body writing is lost. That is what Barthes stated. So, in the second paragraph, what he is stating, let us see. No doubt, it has always been that way. So, this is referring to what we have discussed in the previous paragraph. That is, writing creates an oblique space. Writing gives the way for the subject to slip away, and the negative is the identity is getting lost, the identity of the writing subject. That means this is the disappearing of the author. This is what of course will happen according to Barthes. As soon as the a fact is narrated, no longer with a view to acting directly on reality, but intransitively, that is to say, finally, outside of any function other than that of the very practice of the symbol itself, this disconnection occurs. The voice loses its origin. The author enters into his own death, writing begins. So he says that take any situation and take any example. As soon as the fact is narrated, so when one fact or one incident or whatever it is narrated, that means what? It is written down. Narrated in the sense we use this narration mostly in the texts of literature. So the texts of literature are narrated. Say for example, the novels will have narrator, short stories will have the narrator. The narrator, of course, we can take as the writer also. So Barthes says that as soon as a fact or incident or a situation or some happening is narrated, what happens? It, of course, gets disconnected from the source. So the source for the narrator is the writer. In other words, the author. So that is why Bax is here saying that author enters into his own death. So author by writing is when author is dying, writing begins. So the death of the author is the initiation or birth of the writing. In other words, in following, of course, Bax only says that it is the birth of the reader also. Actually, this is the point where we will find the genesis of the reader-oriented theories rather than author-oriented theories. So previously we know how the meaning was surrounding the author, because finding out the intention of the author was the sole aim of the previous type of criticism. So what was the intention of the author? To find out there and to, of course, to be in tune with the author. It was also to some extent is the aim of the literary criticism. But now it is quite opposite. Now it is not to find the intention of the author, but to examine different or multiple layers of meanings, because the death of the author begins the writing, especially the meaning. Actually, writing begins, and it is up to the reader in what way he understands or he or she understands it. So I know when a fact is narrated, no longer with a view to acting directly on reality. So the narrated fact has no relation to the reality directly, but very intransitively it will be having a relation. So Bax says, finally, outside of any function other than that of the very practice of the symbol itself, this disconnection occurs. So once it is lost, once the fact is stated, of course its connection with the reality ceases, and so the disconnection occurs. And he proceeds to say, the sense of this phenomenon. Okay, what is this phenomenon? Please tell me, what is the phenomenon he is referring here? Any one of you can answer? Hope you are all listening.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this? Who is speaking? Why are you quiet? You are listening, no? All of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You are listening. Then tell me
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is, this phenomenon means what? With what
When
you will...
author is when author is dying, writing begins.
This
About
is...
writing.
Okay, when author is dying, no. When author is dying means what? What do you mean by that? That is the very nature of the writing. Okay, the sense of this phenomenon. That means here the characteristic of the writing, the contemporary writing, as Foucault says, and of course as Bax is also saying, this when a fact is narrated, that will get disconnected from the reality. That is what he said. And later, of course, the disconnection leads to the death of the author also. So all this phenomenon, so the writing begins, it is disconnected with the reality, and it is disconnected with the writer also, with the author also. This phenomenon, however, has varied. So what do you mean by this disconnection of the author? this death of the author or the disappearance of the author, of course, is not similar. It is varied. It is different. In ethnographic societies, the responsibility for a narrative is never assumed by a person, but by a mediator, shaman, or relator, whose performance, the mastery of the narrative code, may possibly be admired, but never his genius. So, usually in the ethnographic societies, we can take as ancient societies, say, for example, African societies. Okay, you know that Africa is very, vibrant in orature. I hope you know what is orature. Any one of you? What is orature? What is orature? Why? Chandu, Lasya, Saujanya, what is orature?
Is it a study of oral science, ma'am?
Plantation.
Orature is
It is
oral tradition. Literature produced through oral tradition. Okay? Ethnographic societies are ancient societies where literature is passed on from one generation to the other orally. మీకు మన కల్చర్లో వల్ల వేయటం ఉంది కదా, మీకు తెలుసు కదా, వేదాలు శ్లోకాల రూపంలో ఎందుకు ఉన్నాయి, శ్లోకాలని వల్ల వేస్తూ ఇంకొక జనరేషన్ కి. అంటే వెన్ దిస్ ఈస్ రిఫరింగ్ టు ఎ టైమ్స్ వెన్ writing perhaps was not invented. Even after writing manuscript only, later when printing came, of course, printing the written documents became very easy. But that was when was William Caxton's printing machine invented? In which century? 14th or 15th?
15th, ma'am.
15th century. So what do you mean by that? Still 15th century, how literature was passed on? Maybe manuscripts, writing down on copper plates, or in our culture we have palm leaves, writing down on palm leaves, etc. So they on stone manuscripts, manuscripts, etc. How inscriptions, we say stone inscription, metal inscriptions, etc. These are all examples of from ethnographic societies where there was no system of writing or printing. Then how these literatures were passed on? It was only through orature, means oral tradition, passing on orally, mouth to mouth. So I know I can recite one poem or one sloka. I will pass it on to my followers. So like that, the orature continued. And usually orature, the literature is not sung but performed. So this is the mediator or the shaman or relator or whose performance actually. In African cultures, we know this culture is, this tradition is very much there. So a storyteller, storytelling is a great art in African culture, and the story is told like a performance activity, not simply just oral recitation of the story, but it was performed. A story was performed with exhibiting different emotions, with a mixture of dance or kind of physical movements, etc. So this actually, before the genesis of the the author, actually then it is not important who has written the story, but it becomes very important who was the mediator, who was the shaman, because all people cannot master or cannot be very adept or skillful in narrating a story. So African cultures are very popular to have these storytellers. So they have a tradition. Okay, there may be certain kinds of families. Of course, you have some families who are dedicated to drumming. So drummer, the tradition of drumming, or the tradition of storytelling, story narration, etc. This with acting, dance, singing, etc. So combined, it's a combination of many arts also. It was there. So when such kind of situations were prevailing in ethnographic societies, the ancient societies, the importance was given to the mastery of the narrative code. Narrative code here can be considered as language, and also the abilities of the shaman or mediator or the relator. His performance is important. It is not simply telling the story, relating the story. It is performing the story. Okay, but then who was admired? It is not the writer of the story that was admired, but the shaman, the mediator, the relator. So he is saying that then also the author is not known. So you got the point why he is Barthes is bringing here the concept of the shaman or mediator, etc. in the ethnographic societies, means ancient societies. Okay, got the point, all of you? Did you understand? So what is the link? Why Barthes bring in a ethnographic societies and shaman here? Why? You didn't understand? Rasya?
Because it is ancient.
Why he brought this ancient example? I'm asking why. What is the relevance here? Saujanya?
Ma'am, due to
Chandru?
signal error, I am unable to listen your voice, ma'am. It was
What?
breaking in the middle.
My voice?
I have
You. For
signal
others,
issues, ma'am.
okay. For others, is it okay? Chandu?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Did you listen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, did you understand why he brought the example of ethnographic societies now? Because you didn't unfollow. Let me tell you. The previous lines of this paragraph and even in the first paragraph of this essay, Barthes was referring to the death of the author. Okay? How it is happening naturally because of the characteristics of the modern writing. Okay, but he is telling that this death of the author is not a new phenomenon. Okay, the sense of this phenomenon, of course, is varied. Now directly we are talking about the death of the author, but it was always there. See now, in a culture, in the ethnographic culture of mediator or shaman or relator, where the story is performed, it is not read out. Okay, remember that it is a performance. Then also, who becomes important is the performer. See, you can take the example of modern cinema also. See, if you go and watch a movie, whom do you remember? Whom do you remember?
Hero.
Hero. But the story of the hero is written by someone else. He is not
Yes.
the writer. Okay, got the point? Then also, the writer is on the backdrop only. That means the death of the author only. that is the disconnection only, that is the disappearance only. And here also the ethnographic societies, when stories are being performed, especially through oral performance combined with many other performances, we, of course, the audience who listen to the mediator, shaman or relator will remember the performer only. That means mediator, shaman, relator only, not the author who has written the story. Is it not? Is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
not? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So in such case, what is happening there? No one remembers the author. So there also, it is a kind of death of the author only. Even you can recollect your childhood stories, which are related by your parents, grandparents, or parents, or sisters, elder sisters, etc., which will not reveal the name of the author. We remember the story as a story told by grandmother or grandfather, not a story that is written by so and so. Is it not? So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah,
ma'am.
in that instance also, what is happening? What is happening is what we are talking now, that is the death of the author. That means author is not remembered. Author, that is why following he is saying, now who is the genius admired by the group? The shaman, the mediator, the performance, or the storyteller for us, but not the story writer. Okay, the genius of the storyteller is what is always admired. And of course, we also, after watching a movie, will never think of the writer of the story, but we will think of the hero only, how he acted, the emotions, okay, or the feelings, etc. So there also, of course, the performer becomes important. So here, he says that this disassociation of the author, this disconnection, disappearance, etc., is not a new phenomenon, and it was there in the ethnographic societies also. And saying that means what? Actually, the ignoring the author is there since ages, or it has been there. And of course, in Foucault's essay, we have understood how author took genesis. And of course, Bath is also here coming to that. The author is a modern figure. So what is an author? Author is a modern figure only. Now you can recollect your Middle English literature, Old English literature. Do you have an author? Old English literature, Middle English literature, do you have authors?
No, ma'am. Anonymous.
Yes, anonymous. Only to the closure of the Middle English, that too with Chaucer. Okay? Before that, we have texts, but there is no author. So there also, of course, the author is dead. So that is why Bath is telling author is a modern figure. Modern figure means what? When do we count the modern age? From which century? From which century we count the modern age?
18th century. 19th.
1500 onwards. That means what? 16th century onwards. Modern figure. But even then, of course, author is there. But the author, according to Foucault, is historical analysis. He says 17th and 18th centuries are crucial in building up the figure of the author. So the author is a modern figure. He is not an ancient figure, not even a medieval figure. He is a modern figure. And further, Bath is saying a product of our society insofar as emerging from the Middle Ages with English empiricism. See, English empiricism is a movement where the scientific temperament was evolving, and for everything we need a practical evidence. Empiricism is a kind of practical evidence. So in the Middle Ages, emerging from the Middle Ages, so to the later years of the Middle Ages, as you have seen Chaucer, okay, and later in not only in literature, always in sciences also we can see English empiricism. That is a period in which the practical evidence for everything is very important, necessary, etc. And French rationalism. And in France, there was a movement of rationalism. Everything should have a rational reason, logic, etc. And the personal faith of Reformation. You know, personal faith means what? Till Reformation, institution was important. From Reformation, the person, the individual became very important. That is what you can see in the writers after Reformation. Say we have, of course, Shakespeare, Milton, okay, and all other poets, you know, after Reformation, we could, and this is a kind of enlightenment spirit also. Even in philosophy, individual freedom is actually stressed upon. So Barthes is saying that if you go back to the history, you can see the genesis of the author, who is a modern figure in the modern concepts of empiricism, rationalism, Reformation, and the faith in individual, that is the Enlightenment period. Okay, it discovered the prestige of the individual. The Enlightenment period discovered that the human being is very important, but not the institution. Okay, individual freedom, individual free will. Milton's Paradise Lost is an advocacy of the free will. So in religion also, they wanted the prevalence of the free will rather than the institutionalization. Of course, there were conditions which, you know, prompted this kind of longing for individual freedom, prestige, or free will, etc. But in the long run, it has some, what do you say, disadvantages also. So one of the disadvantages perhaps is the development of the author figure as a divine figure. So the author is considered to be a godly figure who is next to God, etc. Because God creates, author creates. That is how actually, beginning with the Middle Ages, throughout the modern age, this kind of, what do you say, you know, this kind of belief in the individual freedom led to the consolidated development of a figure of the author who became very solid and strong. Whatever the author says, of course, is believed to be very much right. Okay, and that is how Barthes is saying that the author is a very modern figure, and he is discovered in the prestige of the individual that was, you know, stressed upon during the Reformation and after Reformation, during the Enlightenment period, and of, as it is more nobly put, the human person. So who is the individual, the prestige of the individual? It is the human person. So the human, the culture, especially the European culture, the Western culture, was moving towards the development of the human person, consolidating his position in the society. And thus the author figure also emerged with the ideas of empiricism, rationalism, Reformation, and all. So thus Barthes begins, you know, continues. It is thus logical that in literature it should be this positivism, the epitome and culmination of capitalist ideology, which has attached the greatest importance to the person of the author. So Barthes says that this development of empiricism, rationalism, individualism etc., which of course started or began to pose more, what do you say, importance in the human person, the individual, one particular individual, which is nothing but the capitalist ideology. So, to whomever belongs the capital, okay, the major capital. Of course, capitalist ideology you could have seen in Charles Dickens' novels. You read The Tale of Two Cities? Did you read Tale of Two Cities?
No, ma'am.
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
What did you read? Dickens is not there in your novels, in your prose and fiction?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one? No. Dickens is not prescribed for your study?
Prescribed, ma'am.
Which novel?
David Copperfield.
David Copperfield, ma'am.
Oh, there also you can see that capitalist ideology. David Copperfield is a very poor boy.
Yes,
There are the figures of capitalists in that novel also. This capitalist ideology, of course, Barthes is saying that the development of capitalist ideology is the one which, of course, imbibed great faith in one single individual. Okay, and this is what he says that is the result of the development of the person whom we are calling as the author. So, as the capitalist ideology, the importance of the author also acquired very much. And thus, born with English empiricism, developing with the importance of human person given through the ages, through the modern era, like 17th, 18th century, 19th century, and then it is written to the later years of 20th century. That means what? Say, for example, 3-4 centuries, for 4 to 5 centuries, the person whom we are calling as author, according to Barthes, was evolving or developing in the history, in the culture, especially in the Western culture. And he says, the author still reigns. So the author figure thus evolving, say, from the closure of the Middle Ages, even to the 20th century, to the later years of 20th century. The author figure has consolidated himself or herself, okay, and has a huge significance to the author figure. And even in the 20th century, he is still reigning in histories of literature, biographies of writers, interviews, magazines, as in the very consciousness of men of letters, anxious to unite their person and their work through diaries and memoirs. So, thus, the author has been developing through centuries, according to Barthes, and he is still reigning in all discourses, say literature, biography, interview, magazine, and all. Their diaries, memoirs, etc. Whatever you take, it is the author. So naturally, of course, if you say one quote, actually, people may ask you nowadays, oh, whose quote is this? If you try to say something, people may say, someone has written this long back. Okay, so like this, we can see how the author figure is very dominant in the modern culture or modern history. And Barthes is saying that the author figure gradually evolving from so many centuries has taken a solid position in the history of discourse, even while Barthes was writing this essay. And the image of literature to be found in ordinary culture is tyrannically centered on the author. So, author is like a tyrant, because if you say that this is what the author, so and so author says, etc., it is believed to be unalterable. We cannot change it. We have to. That is why actually in literature we often speak of quotes. You know, quotes, once you put a line of writing within a quotes, it becomes the saying of so and so, etc. So the image of literature, Marx is saying, to be found in ordinary culture is tyrannically centered on the author. So and so quoted like this, so and so stated like this, etc. in the discourses of literature is very important. Okay, his person, his life, his tastes, his passions, while criticism still consists for the most part in saying that Baudelaire's work is a failure of Baudelaire the man. So actually, not only the general discourse, but Marx is saying that the discourses, the critical discourses on literature also. On literature also, what are they doing? They are surrounded on the author's life, taste, passion, etc. See, Baudelaire is a French writer, and it's believed that, you know, he failed as a man. And so his work is always analyzed with reference to his life. Okay, and then Van Gogh is madness. Van Gogh is actually a painter, and it's believed that he was imprisoned, and most of the times he used to be in visions, dreams, hallucinations, etc. So it's believed that he's mad, and so his work will be judged through his madness only. And you know, Tchaikovsky's his vice, his badness. Vice is bad qualities. So if you are judging a work of art, who comes first? The author. Oh, his life, his taste, his passions, his interests, and all. So criticism, of course, Marx says that even in the 20th century, to the later years of the 20th century, he is surrounded not around the text, but around the author. So these examples are given only to point out the place of the author in our discourse. So you got the point why he is referring to all this, because when a necessity comes, or when we are doing the analysis of the literature, naturally we are not doing the analysis of a text or a novel or a story, etc., but we always go back to the author. For example, in Preface to Shakespeare, you read, no? Preface to Shakespeare.
Yes, ma'am.
So what Johnson did there? Tell me. Recollect and tell. What did you identify?
He says merits and demerits of Shakespeare, ma'am.
Now, no, demerits and demerits only. So that means what? He is surrounding his criticism on whom? On what?
Author, ma'am.
Yes,
About
author. Okay. So because why he says that Shakespeare as a man was always in a hurry to finish his dramas and give them to the drama company so that they will be enacted. So that means what? He has gone into his life. Okay. As a person, Shakespeare as a person. So his life, of course, his way of life, his life situations, his conditions, his social conditions or family conditions or political conditions or economical conditions, of course, influence the judgment of his works. Is it not? Is it not that way that Johnson wrote his criticism?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So
Yes, ma'am.
that is what here Marx is telling that. So even though we know that the writing is such an activity which disconnects the text from the author, we are still probing into the author's life only. Okay, so we are not actually disconnecting the text from the author, his life, his taste, his passions. Whereas we know that immediately after writing, the writer gets disconnected. So we are ignoring this. Previously, say, when is it that Johnson wrote? It is in the 18th century? 18th century only, no? 17th. In which century Johnson published it? Huh?
18th.
18th only. Okay, 18th century. So that means what? As a critic, Johnson, of course, surrounded his criticism around the life and situations, conditions of Shakespeare, the author. So even after 2 centuries, what we are doing in the 20th century to the later years of the 20th century, Barthes is telling that we are still revolving around the author, though we know that the author and the text are two different entities. They don't have the author and the text, of course, does not reflect anything. So yet we are doing that. This is what he says. So the explanation of a work is always sought in the man or women who produced it, as if it were always in the end, through the more or less transparent allegory of the fiction, the voice of a single person, the author, confiding in us. So Barthes is telling that the author established himself in the discourse in such a great manner that even after centuries, even now we are explaining the work with reference to the artist or the author only. It can be a man or a woman who produced it. And transparent allegory of the fiction, the voice of a single person, that is the author, confiding in us. We think that a text is nothing but the voice of a single person, that is the author. It is not so. The text is not the voice of the author. This, of course, here you can now go back to the discourse in the novel, that is of Bakhtin, and then if you understand the discourse in the novel very well, you will understand this point very much. How many of you have listened to my lectures on discourse in the novel? Did you listen the recorded lectures? Why there is no answer? You didn't listen at all? What happened? Not even a single S.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh? Saujanya?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
listen? Yeah. So what Bakhtin is telling there, the multiple voices. A text is having multiple voices, but not a single voice. If it is a single voice, that is the monologism, it is always attributed to the other, but it is not so. It is the novel, especially he took novel, which is the modern development, say from the later years of 16th century, novel has been evolving, and in the 20th century, 19th century, it was very predominant, and there were many novelists who were making the novel very much discursive. So therein Bakhtin says that the novel is having multiple voices. It is not a single voice. It is not the voice of a single person. So the author is never a single person. So if we limit the text linking to the author, the texts will become monologic. That of course kills the discursivity of the text. See, now I'm stopping this essay here, and I request all of you, please go back to my recorded lectures and listen. If you can't listen to those lectures, you can't follow my lectures on live, because everything is connected. I'll be going back to Bakhtin, Foucault, Derrida, okay, all these again and again, and the ideas of structuralism, post-structuralism and all. How many of you have listened really? Please switch on your videos now. All of you, please switch on your videos. It's only 13 people here. What happened? Gautami, Lasya, switch on and off. Why? Your internet is not stable or what? Huh? Kirtana? Radhika? Are these people hearing or just...
No, ma'am. Hearing, ma'am.
Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you listen to my recorded lectures previously, which I shared?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
How many of
After
you?
discussing the novel.
Up to discourse in the novel.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, refresh your ideas of discourse in the novel. Tomorrow's class, we will discuss what are the key points of the discourse in the novel, especially the first introduction, and then the second one is the second part of that essay, modern stylistics and the novel. Okay, I have uploaded, I think, 3 or 4 lectures on modern stylistics. For tomorrow's class, all of you should listen to those recorded lectures on modern stylistics and come to the class for interaction. It is simply, I am going on finishing one after the other topic, but you people are not listening at all. For tomorrow's class is that, and it will be considered as your first assignment also. Note down important points on one paper or in a notebook, and scan them, convert them into PDF and mail to me, to my official mail ID, which I will be sharing. This is the assignment being given to you from now to tomorrow. You have to do this, and we will have an interactive session again on those recorded lectures. We have enough time.
Okay, ma'am.
I have actually, I am now in 3rd unit.
Yes,
Which unit?
You are
Third
in
unit.
4th unit, ma'am.
4th unit.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
4th unit. So that means I'll be finishing it soon. Only thing is I am waiting for the physical classes to come in so that I can give you a week for teaching you the critical analysis of an unseen poem. So hope we'll get a week, 10 days of offline classes. Then we'll go to the first unit. Don't worry about that. But please inform to rest of your classmates also. Listen to the recorded lectures on modern stylistics and the novel. Prepare important points. Write down on your notebook, scan and send a PDF to me. Okay. So today's class, for today, I am closing the session here. Come prepared. Don't be negligent. Okay. Have a nice time. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.